that new whip. Hey, who get a do drip?
And we're live.
Welcome to BETT Records, where we talk about hot topics, ideas, and all the shit you really want to hear. What is going on, BETT Records? We are back for another great fantasy football video. We might throw some surprise other takes in here as well. We'll kind of see what happens here. Definitely stay tuned in for this one. We're going to throw you some flyer picks you should be targeting in the later rounds in your home league fantasy football drafts. Now, kind of start the episode off. I have a couple, what do you want to call them, breaking news kind of things. What are, before I kind of say this, I know Darren Waller is kind of being looked at as, there's a lot of people, in that offense. He might not see as many targets, but Darren Waller hasn't been practicing. Coach says it's a contract issue. Justin, are you looking to draft Darren Waller? Is this concerning to you? The coach isn't, seeing him in practice. They're trying a new, playbook, trying a whole new offense this season, especially with Davante Adams being added. Does this kind of drop him in your rankings from this news?
I would potentially draft him. Obviously, there's a couple other better options at tight end. I really do think Davante Adams signing is going to shake things up, if they're going to target more towards the wide receiver, because when you get a dynamic receiver like Davante Adams, that's going to shift your whole passing game. I believe Derek Carr, was Waller the most targeted guy? I think he was.
With him playing, maybe. Waller did have some injury issues, of course, last season as well, which kind of pulled him out of a lot of games and reduce some of those target opportunities as well there.
Yeah, I do see great things happening this season for Derek Carr. I feel like he finally has a really good offense to lean on.
Right.
So, yeah, I would consider drafting Waller, but there are other options there. I think he'll do great. He just needs to get things figured out right now.
Yeah, as long as he can get on the good side of the coaching staff, that's going to be the biggest question here. So definitely something to monitor as the season or preseason continues. Tom Brady back to practice.
Yep.
What Tom Brady expert over here, Justin? What was the deal? He missed a couple practices, or what happened?
Personal issues. I heard through the grapevine of his family. His kids are struggling with something right now, and obviously family comes first.
Yep.
I can't shame on somebody for that, especially if you're a father. Obviously, your kids come first before your career. After all, you're in it for them at the end of the day.
Right.
Here
Here is a little rumor that's spreading around the interweb here that Tom Brady is actually, or I should say was actually, recording for The Masked Singer. And that is why he has not been in the last couple of weeks of practice, because he was airing for The Masked Singer. You're familiar with that show at all?
No.
So, are you serious, dude? It's like the biggest show right now.
Masked Singer is pretty lit.
Masked Singer, dude, yeah. Antonio Brown's been on it. His buddy Gronk's been on it. Why would Tom Brady not be on it?
I don't know. I don't have TV services.
Me neither, but...
I'm very interested in DirecTV Stream for any of you out there. We offer great packages with DirecTV Stream. If you ever need anything, hit me up.
Are we sponsored?
Demo. No, we are not sponsored.
Oh, so we can't really talk about it then if we're not sponsored,
It's
right?
just a free shout-out.
Okay, it's a free shout-out.
Free advertising.
If you want to get hooked up, email us at betrecords@gmail.com. We'll hook you up with a great representative for some coverage with some cable there. Moving
Streaming, not cable.
What? What do you mean? DirecTV doesn't do cable?
No, they do satellites, but
Satellite streaming.
Streaming device.
Oh, okay, interesting. It's a new age.
Come on in for a demo one day.
All right. Maybe we'll do a tutorial and give you guys an inside scoop one day. Nonetheless, moving on to some other further news. Michael Gallup should be starting in week 1 or 2. He was, injured. There's been some injury concerns. He was on the PUP list. He's been running some drills and, being engaged in practice now here. The biggest, kind of upside for CeeDee Lamb and why he's being drafted so highly as well is because of the concerns of Michael Gallup's injury. Again, looking like he should be able to start within the first 2 weeks of the regular season here. And B, I still get it. Michael Gallup's one of those fragile guys, we always say these guys are injury prone, but, unless they prove us otherwise, they're just going to stay injury prone, right? They're going to be injury prone unless they're not injured, I should say, anymore. So definitely something to monitor. He's not going in single-digit rounds, so might be a half-decent pickup in the later 2 rounds. What else do we got here?
I was watching a fantasy segment yesterday, and it was ranking the top wide receivers. I just want to hear your guys' input on this. So this guy was actually ranking Justin Jefferson as number 1 wide receiver over Cooper Kupp. You guys think that's a good call?
PPR?
We are half PPR in our actual league, which is just half point per catch. The majority of leagues are half PPR, so fuck the rest of them. But nonetheless, I don't think the rankings really are a difference from PPR to not. Going back to the wide receiver question, Justin Jefferson has the biggest opportunity this season. Now, Cooper Kupp did score, I believe, 60 more fantasy points than Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase as well, because those are the top 3 finishers of last season.
So the biggest thing that he touched on with Cooper Kupp dropping down is because of Matthew Stafford's elbow issues that he's been dealing with, and on his throwing arm too, and your elbow is a big thing, so...
Yep, that's definitely something to monitor. He's been, it was kind of an issue towards the end of last season. Obviously, he powered through it, won the Super Bowl, did okay. But, certainly he's been dealing with it this season already. They've been trying to limit Stafford as much as possible, but he's definitely dealing with a football elbow or tennis elbow, whatever you kind of want to call it.
Always had that.
And probably. Did he have it in Detroit? I don't know.
No, in his early career with Detroit, it was all about his shoulder. I don't know if you know the dislocated shoulder game.
Well, his hand was fucked up for a while, too.
Yeah, either way, I mean, and that's just, your biggest weapon is your arm, right, as a quarterback. So if you're having issues,
I didn't know that was there.
Oh, another beer? Yeah, it's right underneath your foot. Yeah, that's why, I would take Justin Jefferson as well. We got the new coaching staff. We're a little bit biased in Minnesota, but the general consensus is truly Justin Jefferson should have a higher upside than Cooper Kupp. There should be a lot of regression for Cooper Kupp. I don't think there's a ton. I think it's a really close finish between those two. Do you think... Josh, Jamar Chase should really be in the conversation with these guys?
Top 3 for sure.
Definitely top 3. My kind of concerns with Chase is regression as well. I mean, he had a lot of breakout plays last season. It was a lot of blown coverage, honestly, as well. They kind of started to figure him out towards the later half of the season. B, he still had the broken. I know Josh is giving me that look like, not really. You're right.
55 points in championship week.
Yeah, that that's fair. And I don't remember who they played.
That's half PPR.
So
that's
Josh,
true.
I actually have a question. In what tier would you put T. Higgins in? Because that same channel I was watching, I was actually speaking very highly of T.
I don't know, maybe like top 20 receivers.
Oof.
Maybe.
Because that guy, he was putting him in tier 3, saying that he was just as much targeted as Jamar Chase was.
Yeah, but he's not.
He's good.
He's good, but he's not that good.
I want to see what
he's
they
like your
finished
Adam
last
Thielen,
season.
He'll be consistent, sure, but I don't think he's going to put up a bunch of big numbers.
So last season, T. Higgins finished with 145 fantasy points, Jamar Chase 224. So definitely, 60, 70 point difference. Again, Jamar Chase is ranked or projected to get 50 more points than him again, just because, he's the number 1 there. T. Higgins is just fine. I wouldn't mind taking him as a number 1 wide receiver if it falls, if I go heavy running backs, right? Otherwise, is it an exciting pick? I'm going to say no. It's never an exciting pick when you get a wide receiver 2 of an offense within the first 3 or 4 rounds, because T. Higgins is going before round 4 easily every time in every draft as well. So,
but and a couple sleepers too. One guy to keep your eye on is Julio Jones out of Tampa Bay. That's gonna be a big either low floor, high ceiling kind of guy. He's either gonna put up some decent numbers in Tampa, or he's gonna shit the bed like he usually does. I think there's a lot of potential there just because he's not going to get double covered like he was everywhere else. You can't double cover him and leave Mike Evans open. You can't double cover him and leave Godwin open. True. It's just not going to happen. So
right.
He's going to see a lot of single coverage, a lot of that wide receiver 3, probably a lot of a lot more slot play than he usually sees, I would guess. I know Godwin, that's kind of his home, but he's also out for the first couple, probably 6-7 weeks. So,
Yep.
you're going to see a lot more there. I think that's a very decent late round pick. I'm talking 13, 14.
Yeah,
15.
you
I
can
wouldn't
get him
pick
in the double
before
digits
that.
easily. My biggest kind of question mark for him is, sure, he's a great talent. He has definitely proven himself within the past 5+ years. Last season I had him when he was on Tennessee. Not a great offense, we'll all agree there. But a totally fine offense. They did well. Believe they won the division even. But nonetheless, Julio Jones couldn't stay healthy. He played maybe 4 games for me, and in those 4 games, I think he maybe got double-digit points and half PPR scoring in one of those opportunities. Tom Brady also has been talking pretty highly of Russell Gage. Now, that was before the Julio Jones signing, so are they going to split time in 3 wide receiver sets? Of course, they're going to use one of those guys when Godwin's injured for the first couple of weeks of the regular season here. But I agree, not a bad upside pick. Definitely worth the flyer in the later rounds. Just don't be afraid to drop Julio Jones after week 2 if his usage isn't there. So.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those where you really don't know until you get into the season,
True.
Right. Yep, he's currently going in about the 12th, 13th round, so definitely worth one of those flyer picks there. One of my kind of looking at players here, one of my higher upside guys could be possibly Jahan Dotson, who's the number 2 wide receiver, or should be, for the Washington Commanders. Now, Carson Wentz isn't, the best, right? But it's definitely an improvement from who they had last year. I can't even remember the guy's name because he was a backup for Fitzpatrick. But nonetheless, he's been showing some talent in the preseason and in the off-season workouts as well, and in practice. So definitely some higher opportunity there. I think truly, I love taking shots on some of these guys after round 11. Take your defense, take your kicker in some of these rounds. Just take these shots, because these last 2 bench spots are gonna be, again, someone you're dropping probably week 1, maybe week 2 or 3. Just, you want to hold someone for the upside, take a rookie, take a chance, see what happens.
Yep. You also have another one, Raheem Mostert out of Miami now. Kind of tore it up in San Francisco. He's pretty consistent with them. Kind of the same situation as Julio, He has a very low floor, very high ceiling, He could get the same usage that he did in San Francisco, where he's putting up 10, 15 points every week, and he's a viable flex spot, or he could not be used at all and just be a 5-point guy, which isn't even fantasy relevant, honestly. So that's another one that I'm kind of in on that later round picks.
Yeah, and with him, just like every San Francisco running back, there's injury concerns, right? His age is a little bit of a concern as well. Agree, not a bad flyer pick, but we do know Chase Edmonds should be seeing the bulk of that workload in this offense. Edmonds is going around round 7, 8 maybe as well. Not a bad running back 3, grab for Edmonds there. But yeah, we truly don't know how this is going to shake up with this running back room. I believe they have one other guy. Don't remember if they cut him or not when the cut, portion of the season, preseason, is hitting here soon. But nonetheless, Edmonds should be their guy in a very, offense-heavy Dolphins team with the addition of, Tyreek Hill. Sounds like Jalen Waddle is struggling already this preseason with some injury concerns, so something to monitor. Kind of going off track here, but something to monitor with him as well. We're going to kind of see how that shakes out. How do you guys feel strongly at all about Jalen Waddle, trying to draft him over other players this season at all, or are we kind of off the Waddle train?
Well, obviously when you think of Miami, Tyreek Hill is going to be taken over him.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's always the big question, is Tua going to be a star this year? And can he deliver? And, the media outlets are pretty high. That now he has Tyreek Hill, he has a weapon, so then he'll utilize Jalen Waddle too. He's not just going to be thrown to Tyreek Hill every single time. And Jalen Waddle being as targeted as he was last season, I think we should see an increase from him this year. I think he's a solid pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I'm truly just on the fence, and I don't know which way to lean. It really depends where he drops. He's kind of in the middle of that wide receiver zone where there's some definite, flyers going later than him as well. So I think I'm looking elsewhere because right around Jalen Waddle is DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, Elijah Moore as well, typically being drafted in. All those guys are just kind of a wash for me, all kind of gambles. I get DK's a little bit bigger. DJ Moore is the only guy receiving the ball for Carolina and Baker Mayfield, who's been the announced quarterback there. Just don't really see any of those guys being a true league winner this season. Before we move on to the next player, I did want to make mention of another player in Miami, Mike Joseki. Tight end, did great and phenomenal last season. However, so far, with this new plan to increase, Tyreek Hill's workload and maybe do some San Francisco offense and plays there, Mike Joseki has found himself lining up as more of a blocking tight end than a receiving tight end. So I wouldn't mind him as a flyer as well. Grab him in your last round if you want to take a chance in that offense and you want a piece of it there. He is just so far looking like more of a blocker in this season. It doesn't sound like he's really happy about it either, but nonetheless, maybe some definite regression from him.
Something you also have to remember is that could be a bluff too,
It could.
And he's bluffing, and, everybody's covering Tyreek Hill and Waddle. He fakes the block, goes out, he's wide open. There he is.
Right.
I like Joseki. He's a solid tight end. He's clutch. He can make good catches and make big plays.
I kind of see him like...
I wouldn't regret picking him. He's a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
He can catch the damn ball, and he can make big plays.
I kind of see him like Hunter Henry for the Patriots. They're both... we know the Patriots run two tight end sets. That's why they have Juno Smith as well. But again, we've seen Hunter Henry, they're on the 3rd-yard line, dump it off to him, and he gets a touchdown. He's definitely going to see some touchdown targets just from being that bigger receiver.
And that's the point scorers.
And you're right. So I like that take on it.
In the red zone, your tight ends are the guys who are the most dangerous. Because, with guys like Tyreek, you're either going to see, just going to beat the guy out on a fade, or you're going to get him on a slant.
Yep.
Tight ends are really the guys you dump it off, and they just fat-ass their way into the end zone.
Yep, definitely like that as well. Another one that I've been hearing come up kind of recently in the fantasy community is Wan'Dale Robinson, who is a rookie for the New York Giants. Not a great offense. No one's really high on their passing offense with Daniel Jones. I get it. But the real treat here is the injury concerns for all of those Giant wide receivers. I mean, Kenny Golladay hasn't been performing well in the past seasons due to injuries and among other reasons. Kadarius Toney as well, already having injury concerns in the preseason, has had injury concerns the past couple years as well. So there could definitely be some room for Wan'Dale Robinson. He'll certainly be there in one of the later rounds unless someone else is listening to this podcast or doing their research as well. Possibly worth the flyer. I don't know if I'm sold on it. If no one picks him, he'll be there in the waivers. But, if you want to get ahead of the game, wait till week 4. Some more Giants wide receivers might fall. He might be, one of the top 2 wide receivers in that offense.
Yeah, definitely something to see there. Another one you got, Sammy Watkins out of Green Bay, another one of those.
Yeah.
High risk, high reward guys. Green Bay's kind of depleted on offense. Sounds like the receivers are hot garbage out there, not figuring it out.
Yep.
Obviously, you got the Lizard. He's going to be their number 1 guy for sure. It's just about who's going to be that number 2 guy. And,
yep.
Watkins has been there. He's done that. So he's one of those guys where he's either going to do what he usually does and put up 3 points a week, or he's going to tear it up with Aaron Rodgers throwing to him. I could see it going either way. Right.
I don't. All of those Green Bay guys are just kind of a wash for me. Even Lazard as well. I'm game to kind of break this down because we got Lazard projected to be number 1. Number 2 we have it's not Juju, it's MVS.
MVS isn't on their team.
On Green Bay.
He's not on their team. He's in KC.
Frick.
What the?
So that's it. You're right. Then we just have Romeo Doubs besides Sammy Watkins. We have God, who the fuck is the older guy? Randall Cobb. Yep, got him as well. I think those guys are just kind of a wash for me, honestly. We've seen the Sammy Watkins experiment in, where did we see it? Kansas City, Baltimore as well. He did fine at the beginning of his season. I think he was at Baltimore last season, right?
Yeah.
I think so as well. He just was kind of a wash there. Didn't make a big name for himself. Didn't do anything fantasy relevant wise. We are kind of hoping, if you're drafting him in one of the later rounds, you're hoping something more can happen with Aaron Rodgers being that quarterback here. But, if he couldn't do it last year, I don't see that high potential for him. I would rather take a shot with Romeo Doubs, who's supposed to be, the emerging rookie, or Christian Watson. Watson's been struggling with the preseason. He should be, the featured, rookie wide receiver. But they got both these guys. Romeo Doubs is doing great with Josh Love. Again, not Aaron Rodgers, not the main starting quarterback, but again, he's been proving it in the preseason. So I don't mind taking a flyer at any of those guys because we really don't know how this whole situation will kind of shake up here.
Yep. Another one to keep your eyes on, too, kind of going back to Tampa Bay, actually. We have in the tight end slot, we have Kyle Rudolph with the recent emergence, or I guess not emergence, but disemergence. Q-tip?
Disemergence.
Descendants?
Descendants?
Trade?
Of Rob Gronkowski.
There you go. Retirement. There you go.
Yeah,
there you go. That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. You have him gone. Tom Brady has always loved his tight ends. He's always been hot on his tight ends. True. Kyle Rudolph was kind of a beast for Minnesota. He was always that guy in the red zone that they'd throw it to and he'd get it kind of a thing.
Yep.
So he's going to be another one of those guys. He's getting a little older, so I don't know if he's going to be getting those calls as much as he used to.
Yep.
But it's going to be another one of those high-risk, high-reward guys. He could put up no points a week, or he could get 10, 15. I don't know.
Right.
It's going to be one of those where you pick them in the latter rounds and hope it works out. If not, you drop them.
Yep. Kind of see him taking some of those end zone targets as well. We see Gronk doing that all the time, and kind of talked about that with Hunter Henry and Mike Joseki as well. Kind of taking some of those red zone kind of tight targets there. Rolling still with the tight ends. Truly, I think in your last couple rounds, a tight end flyer is a great option, especially if you don't have a Kelsey or a Mark Andrews or something like that as well. Cole Kmet for Chicago should be a PPR machine. He should be the number 2 receiving option behind Darnell Mooney for Justin Fields. It's a sketchy, shaky offense. I get it. But he's a big receiver. I believe he's going into his second year, if it's not his third, this year as well. And he's already played one season with Fields playing. I think that's definitely a great flyer pick as well. There should be a tremendous upside with him. Couple other guys.
You're not getting Cole Kmet in the later rounds.
You don't think so?
No, he's tight end. He's tight end 12, dude.
Yeah, he's tight end 13 here. Remember, we're doing 12 teams. So in a 12-team format, each one picks a tight end. No one's really picking backups, right? No one's really picking backups until some of these later rounds. So if you want to reach for him in the 10th, 11th, by all means, go for it. I think he's going to be on some people's radars for some of these double-digit rounds. It just really depends on your league where they're going. Keeping with the tight end trend, sprang out Minnesota Vikings, Irv Smith Jr. Now, what do you guys think about the potential for Irv Smith? We know he just had some injury, thumb surgery within the past week here. He's still in practice. He should be starting week 1, if not week 2. Do you think he's going to be on track for week 1? What do we think?
I mean, I was high on Irv Smith last year, but after all these injuries, I'm not so sure anymore.
That's kind of where I'm at as well. Again, we're at the flyer. All these guys are in that same boat. Drop them after a couple of weeks. We're going to see their usage after week 1 as long as everyone's healthy. And there's no one splitting time, for these wide receiver or tight end groups here, right? I just think, there's some better opportunities for tight ends in some of these later rounds. We got David Njoku as well, who should be starting for Cleveland. Got a 1-2-year contract extension this offseason. I know we got Jacoby Brissett. And then we got Deshaun Watson after week 11. I don't think we've talked about that yet as well. Deshaun Watson suspended for now 11 weeks after NFL review. Think he's worth the flyer. Justin, I'm going to turn to you on this one. Got 2 more tight ends here. I'm going to throw 3 in here. We got Robert Tonyan, Green Bay, Noah Fant for Seattle, Albert Okawagabanem. I can't say his last name. For Denver.
Justin loves Tanyan.
Anybody but Tanyan.
Yeah, why?
Anybody. Rodgers does not like him. I don't know if Tanyan slept with his wife or something.
That's why they got a divorce, huh?
Yeah, guy did not pass the ball to him for shit. In the one game, he finally had a good game. Out for the season, torn ACL. At least I think that's what the injury was.
Yeah, he had something. I know he had 1 or 2, half decent weeks, and I believe they were both touchdown scoring weeks, if not just the one. I think he got 2 touchdowns in one game. Wasn't that the one game?
It was against the Cardinals.
Right, yeah.
Where he had his best game, but got hurt.
Right, so...
One week I didn't start him because I was so pissed at him.
And that's how fantasy goes. But, yeah, I think, again, worth the flyer in the later rounds. There were the injury concerns in the offseason just due to that latest injury towards the end of last season. Should be able to start first couple weeks. He's the number 1 tight end as far as I'm concerned and aware. Again, with the wide receiver mix in that Green Bay offense, Aaron Rodgers might look towards that bigger receiver at tight end. I'm not sure, but at the same time, I'm loving Noah Fant.
Yeah.
I'm loving Noah Fant for Seattle. He was in the trade with Drew Lock as well.
That's what I picked up after I dropped Tanyan.
Yeah.
Immediate results.
Yeah, so he did just fine last season. He scored 91 points, which is about average, right below that kind of low-end tight end 1 for your fantasy football team. Tight ends aren't going to score, massive every week, so kind of makes sense with that scoring from last season. He's pretty much projected to score the same, again, should be his same quarterback. We could put Geno Smith in there in Seattle. Big question mark there, but again, we got 2 new quarterbacks. We don't know who's going to emerge from that, quarterback battle in this preseason. It's looking like Drew Lock, but anything could change, and they may rely on that bigger target there.
What do you guys think about Kyler Murray being the QB5 over the likes of
Joe Burrow,
of Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow,
Brady, Wilson, Prescott,
Aaron Rodgers?
So
Prescott. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, the reason why he's so high, and we can already tell it, is I'm not high on Stafford. A, injury stuff we talked about before. B, he's just a pocket passer. I get it. I don't remember what he finished last year, maybe top 10, but...
He was number 1 for quarterbacks?
No, not fantasy-wise. He did not finish number 1. There's no way.
Top 3 for sure.
Stafford? Ranking-wise, at the beginning of the season?
I'm going to look at how many points he got.
Well,
347. He scored higher than Dak.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, I know, was top 3.
Yeah, I was going to say...
You might be right. He didn't finish top 5. You might be right with that one.
People are literally throwing Brady down just because of his age, and yet he almost won MVP last year.
Yeah.
Right. For the Kyler Murray take, I think it's the right spot for him. The rushing upside is there. He had injuries last season. He got a contract extension as well this offseason. The nice thing and the biggest concern last year was he wasn't comfortable doing a lot of audibles and kind of, pulling a Tom Brady and taking control of that offense and, throwing different wide receivers in different directions and whatever. So far this preseason, Kyler Murray hasn't been playing in the games, but he's been calling the shots in the plays. So he's kind of taking that off-field looking at it from an offensive coordinator kind of view and making audibles on the fly as needed and such as well, and realizing, okay, that was a bad play call. We should have ran something else. You know what I mean? So there's been talks of him being increased in the recording room, in the film room, I should say, doing some more film studies this season because his latest interview was basically, I'm just that good, and that's what my talent is. And the coaches weren't really a fan about that. I think he's just going early because of the rushing upside. I can kind of tell, Josh, you're thinking he should go later just because of Stafford and some of these other guys.
Yeah, I mean, some of the other guys definitely have more consistency, which that's kind of what you want on a quarterback. You don't you don't want to have too much risk on that. I mean, obviously you want to have a guy that can put up big numbers some weeks, but you don't want to have a guy who can, puts up 10 for you. I mean, you can get that off the waiver wire. You don't need your main guy to have that.
Right. And my biggest, I don't want to say problem with Joe Burrow, but the biggest downside for Joe Burrow is his last 3 or 4 games were his highest scoring of the whole season, and that's how he kind of got back onto track for fantasy football, and especially in the end year rankings. I believe he was certainly top 10, if not top 7.
Yeah.
Finished with 328. That's 7 points more than Jalen Hurts last season. Doesn't have as much of a rushing upside. I wouldn't say there's much of an injury concern with him anymore. There was a lot last season, of course, due to the previous season, but nonetheless, I think all those guys kind of go the same. I don't get why Brady's going around, if not 2, after some of these guys. I'd pick Brady over Burrow. That's just me. Brady should be finishing top 5 quarterback every season, and I don't think there's any other way to look at it. He's a touchdown monster. Yeah, he's a pocket passer. He's not known for his rushing upside. He's gonna get in there and get the job done, though, nonetheless.
True.
Where are you guys at with kind of Trey Lance, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson? Where are we at with some of these guys that are going in the kind of later rounds of drafts?
Yeah, Wilson's still kind of like a coin toss to me. It's really just going to see how he's going to fit in with Denver. I had Wilson last year.
Mm-hmm.
He did great up until he had that one injury.
Yep.
And then afterwards he kind of just went shy. So it's kind of, is he going to adapt to, because like he had Metcalf, what's his name?
Yep, Tyler Lockett.
Tyler Lockett like that. Like, who's really a big star in Denver?
I'll tell you right now, he's not having DK
But
Metcalf
like,
this season.
yeah.
Courtland Sutton. That's his big target this year. And no, you're right. He doesn't have Tyler Lockett, but he's got a tiny, little, quick Jerry Jeudy. I believe he was a rookie last season, if not the season before. So he's coming into his second, third year. I think those players are really comparable. Of course, every player is a little bit different in skills and abilities, but for Russell Wilson's sake and concerns, they're going to be pretty comparable. They're going to look towards that Albert O as well at tight end. I think he's worth a flyer pick in the later rounds of fantasy drafts as well at that tight end spot, because Russell Wilson does like his tight ends, and we definitely know that as well. So how is it going to shake out with Denver being a more run-first offense? Not sure. Will they change it with the addition of Russell Wilson being a better quarterback than, was it still Teddy Bridgewater last year? No, it was Noah Fant last year.
Yep.
No, not Noah Fant. Drew Lock, sorry. They could change it a little bit. It could be a 50-50 split there. Javonte Williams is a great talent for that backfield and the running back position. So I think there's a lot of upside for Russell Wilson. I would pick Russell Wilson over Trey Lance. That is just me. I think it's a safer option. Do you think Trey Lance is going to score more than 300 points this year? Right now, I'll tell you the projections, and then I kind of want your thoughts on this. Russell Wilson to finish at 307 fantasy points projected. Trey Lance to finish at 315 projected. And Dak Prescott, 333 projected. What do you think for Trey Lance?
Yeah, I'd say about that. That's about right.
I think that's about right. You would do, yeah? A little bit more with Dak, so you'd take Dak over Trey?
Yeah, I would say Dak would score a little more than Trey.
Yeah, I think so too. The biggest, problem for Cowboys.
I just still don't know how I feel about Trey Lance.
I know. Me too. We haven't seen him had a full season. We saw him in a couple passes last year, but he's got all the weapons there. He's got great running backs. He's got a great coach. He's got amazing wide receivers as well. George Kittle, tight end, awesome as well, as long as everyone can stay healthy. Yep. He's got a lot of great opportunity. He's going to be under a lot of pressure, though, this season. Am I taking him as a starting quarterback? No. Am I taking him in best ball leagues? Yes. Am I taking someone else as a backup? If I, grab Trey Lance as my quarterback one, I certainly am. I'm looking for Matt Ryan. I'm looking for Kirk Cousins. I'm looking for someone to kind of back that up there. I think Dak should improve from last season as well.
I was even watching something last night about Kirk Cousins and saying how he is basically the most underrated quarterback of all time. His overall record is 59-59-1, which is 500, which spells journeyman.
Right.
But his stats tell a different story.
Right. And I was going to even add to that, I don't remember how many losses we had. 8 for the Vikings last season, something like that. Maybe 9, I don't know, but 7 out of 9 of those were losses by 3 points
Correct.
Or less.
That was the other reason they ranked it.
Yep, that's the problem. So you count it as a loss. It's kind of going back to, we just did a UFC video. If you guys are interested in the recap from that and are still listening, go ahead and check that one out. It was kind of a quicker video, but we kind of talked about, last year things as well. I kind of forgot where I was going with that, but that's all right.
Yeah, I was like, you're going into UFC and doing that? Kirk Cousins?
Cousins, I know. Oh, yes, we were talking about the judge rankings. That's what it was. The rankings and the scores from the judges don't tell the whole story of the match or the competition in sports always as well. Goes kind of hand in hand with Kirk Cousins. He had that record last season. Vikings should have kind of secured those wins, and hopefully with the new coaches, we pull something together.
I was going to say an NFL game where it just goes back and forth, and then judges say, yeah, you may have scored more points, but
they had the longer touchdown or something stupid, right?
Yeah.
That would be interesting. Well, I think that's kind of it for this one. Stay tuned for next week. We're going to do a recap of our personal fantasy football draft. If you're not already looking on our channel, we're doing some mock drafts. Got some more for this weekend coming up. Had some more previously, so get yourselves ready. Justin's excited as well.
Football is back,
Football
baby.
is back. We're going to have some pregame episodes and some contents for next week as the preseason is coming to an end. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for tuning in as always. Make sure to leave a subscribe and follow wherever you're listening. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.
Peace.
Peace.
Joseki, do trip. I like how she move it. I like how she move it. I got that new whip. Joseki, do trip. I like how she move it. I like how she move it.